So, a lot of people like rolling release distros, and when I talk about rolling release distros, the usual names come to mind: Arch, OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, and one or two others. I think Void Linux is another one as well. But the words Ubuntu and rolling release do not go together. Those two together sounds more like oil and water. It just doesn't mix because, of course, Ubuntu has point releases. As we know, every 6 months a new release comes out, and every 2 years a LTS release comes out. Anyway, online a while ago, there was a script that someone had created that what it would do, it would go and change your Ubuntu's installations apt sources to testing. Kind of like the same thing as if you were to take Debian or Debian and to change its sources to testing as well. And then another group gotten together and they basically opted to try to package this as a distro. And of course, this comes out as Rolling Rhino Remix. So it is not an official Ubuntu distro. Just want to call that out. Not supported by Conical. But essentially, what is it, of course? It essentially converts Ubuntu into a rolling release distro. And what it does, basically, it does that by tracking the development series of apt packages. Now, of course, I need to tell you that it's very important to know that this is really not recommended for daily use, more perhaps for developers or testers or advanced Linux users. If you're new to Linux, please don't try to use something like this because you might have a really bad time. Again, that's the standard, warnings, but of course, it's always great and fun to try these different things. And I thought, hey, I would also like to try it out. Um, Interestingly enough, as well, there's two types of package managers here. They've used a different front end for apt called Nala, and Nala essentially makes the apt front end look more human friendly, which we're going to go through a bit later. And there's also Packstore, which is an AUR like package manager for Ubuntu. So think of Packstore as bringing the AUR experience to Ubuntu that Arch distros have, which is also still in early days. Something else to know about this OS is if you select the minimal installation during the install, it will not install any GUI interface. So let's take a look at it. So I went and downloaded the latest ISO, and let's boot this thing up and take it from here. So we're going to try to install Rolling Rhino and see how it looks. So, really interesting concept. I suppose you could argue with almost any distro, and I know I tend to use the saying a lot in my videos, but it's true that you could probably make any distro rolling distro. Rolling is essentially as new updates come out, they get loaded onto the machine, where Arch tends to test them as well as OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. In fact, SUSE Tumbleweed actually has quite a lot of people test them out before it gets rolled out to the general population. So it's often considered and I use this with inverted commas, a stable rolling release distro. But again, Debian testing is also in theory, a rolling release distro, as well as Ubuntu development. So, set it up here, just waiting for it to finish loading. And yeah, I'm very interested to see what it's like. Definitely a different concept to get used to. And a lot of people out there are like, but why didn't Ubuntu officially make something like this? Well, of course, Ubuntu is designed for stability, reliability, um, You get people out there, they want to load the OS, and they expect it to still be the same the next day as it was the previous day, and the additional software they add onto it as well is just what they expect. But let's take a look here. So first impressions, of course, is the wallpaper. Nice wallpaper. I know it's still taking a few seconds to load, but as you can see here, it's still GNOME 3 that they have used. So what we're going to do is wait for the installer to pop up. We'll quickly run through the installation. I'll pause and then we'll try it all out once it's there. So let's go install rolling. Let's continue. We're going to choose normal installation, download updates, I guess. Continue again. Just pretty standard Ubuntu install. And give it a few seconds here. Definitely does take a couple of moments to move on to the next step. Again, it's also slightly slower since it's in a virtual machine. And busy identifying the drivers. Cool. Erase disk. Yeah, cool. We're not going to use ZFS. We'll just use the standard ext4. Good, stable, reliable, and well-known file system. And if you hear any funny sounds in the background, apologies. It is tad noisy in the neighborhood today. I'm really not concerned about the region, so I'll just leave it default there. My name is Gosh. An extremely difficult and secure password. We'll require to log in. We're not going to use AD. We'll continue. Just want to see what this installer looks like quickly. So, of course, as you can see here, the normal Ubuntu installer. Nothing else to really write home about. It's just kind of busy downloading and getting its packages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause and resume once it's finished installing. And we're back. So this is finished installing. Let's hit restart now and see what happens. No, I can honestly tell you I haven't tried this distro before. So heck on some of these options here. I'm also going to have to read the manual, as it were, so we can do that together. I'm just going to maximize this here a bit and wait for this to boot up. Now I know while I was reading there is special tools that have been built for this distro to make sure that when one updates it, so we're not going to use the normal standard apt update or apt get update. That will, I believe, after reading, result in errors. So let's see what we're supposed to do. We'll use the custom scripts that have been designed for this once this distro boots up, which should be any second now. Okay, maybe a few more seconds than any second. Okay, there we go. We've got Gosh. Let's type in the strong password. And from what we saw earlier, by the looks of it, there isn't too much customization. So, at least they haven't taken Ubuntu and tried to put their own spin on how it looks. That would be awful. Obviously, apart from the wallpaper, which I think is pretty cool. Anyway, let's go to settings and just fix this resolution. Let's go to settings. No online account, skip, thank you. No. I don't want to send system info right now, thank you very much. Okay, so first thing, appearance. Dark. Thank you. And let's find resolution, so displays. And let's Let's give it a decent. Keep these changes, and yeah, now we can all see what's going on here. No, I don't want you sent here. No, I don't. Will you? Thank you. That's very nice. And I'm just going to move this over here. And first thing I'm going to do is, and I'm not going to lie to you, I need to open up the browser. Because I can't remember out of my head how to update this thing. So, let's first wait for Firefox to load. Something else that I read about this as well is that this just recommends using snap packages or Flatpaks or whatever software to install with instead of using apt-get, just because based on the type of distro this is. And I'm sure there's somebody thinking, well, Firefox is taking a long time to open because it's a snap package. Yep, that's pretty true, at least for the first time. Not gonna sugarcoat that. I guess it would be nice if there was a link or some form of documentation on this distro somewhere along the line. You know, because it is slightly different. So yeah, having some documentation or an additional welcome screen, or heck, even a link in the web browser. But okay, this is where the power of Google comes in. So let's do Ubuntu running. And now we need to actually find the right link. Again, so is it rolling Rhino remix, I think is the term, yeah. See, and this is what a normal user would go through. Okay, so we've created two update and Rhino config. Rhino update is an update utility. So Rhino update. So I think I first need to use Rhino update. So let's get a terminal out here. Am I supposed to do sudo or not do sudo in front of it? Let's see. So if I go Rhino update, what happens? Okay, so it's going to clone a script. Okay, at least it prompts for a password. That's good. And it's doing something. Okay, so you can see it's definitely doing updates. Pardon me. Just let this continue getting the latest updates here. In the meantime, while it does that, I just want to find software. Is it software update or software and updates? If you're wondering what I'm looking for, I'm trying to find the GUI app to show me the apt sources. I know I can find it through the terminal, but okay. Ubuntu. Oh, look here. 2210. That's weird. Has experienced an error. Okay, so that's my bad. That's me trying to open up that other piece of software. Maybe if... Oh, Rhino config is updating as well. Rhino, okay, checksums. Okay, Linux headers. Oh, you want my password again? Okay, that's pretty cool. So this is installing, I think it's installing a new kernel. Which, let me just give some advice here. If you are using a proprietary driver like an NVIDIA driver, or you're running this in VirtualBox, or even in VMware or something, please bear in mind you might have issues, because if you update this kernel, you might have to rebuild certain of the drivers back into it, especially if it's a new kernel version. Right, so please don't go install this, set up your NVIDIA proprietary drivers and go, hey, I updated this, but my drivers don't work anymore. Well, then please consider using DKMS drivers. And that essentially should automatically rebuild your drivers every time there's a new kernel. So, We can see it's busy setting up, installing. I'm just gonna, in the meantime, bookmark this. Right, I'll just add it to the bookmark toolbar. Right, just so that if we reboot, and I suspect that's actually going to happen, um, that the stuff is easy to find. Okay, so grab prober entry done. Does this mean there's more to do, or this is completely done? Well, that's doing whatever it's doing. I'm going to try this again. And as you can see, here's the other normal general standard Ubuntu applications. I'm not going to go through all of that one by one. Download is performed. Okay. Don't try to open up software properties, please. Pending update to Firefox Snap. So we're back and okay, so it's automatically updating Snap 20 as well. And as you can see, it continued. It gave the option to upgrade the packages, so I went ahead. This is using Nala, so Nala you can install on any apt-based distro, and it changes the output of the which you would see from apt-get, so that is not exclusive to this distro, just by the way, and it makes it a lot more legible and easier to view and focus. Anyway, as you can see here, it's gone ahead and updated packages, and then it tells us this requires a reboot. So you know what? Let's reboot and see what this does. So additional tools that it uses, of course, Nala. So Nala is essentially a wrapper around apt, so it essentially makes apt prettier on the eyes. Mostly similar commands as apt does, but of course you would use sudo nala install whatever, sudo nala remove whatever type thing, and of course in your system, if you wanted to do that, you could just go ahead and create your own aliases as well. So it's a nice little addition built into it. Not needed, really. It's just there to make things really look a lot prettier. I've tested that out myself in Pop. Alright, so happy to see it's come up again. Let's log in. And then pack store that it does is that's essentially someone or a group community is trying to build the AUR for Ubuntu. So essentially have packages out there and then build scripts. So if it needs to get the latest versions of specific pieces of software, it can, the system can either load the binaries or do the build scripts or whatever. You don't need Rhino for that. You can go and use that on your own Ubuntu-based distro. That makes a lot more sense on, let's say you're using standard 2204 and you want newer packages and you want to use that and use this build scripts. Again, security is all up to you. And you don't want to use Flatpaks and you don't want to use snaps or app images. It's another way of getting newer software. Using it on this distro, I'm not too sure why you would use it really that much on this distro. I would like to hope a lot of the newer software is already here. But I think they're kind of doing that because I can imagine if you were to go and apt-get or Nala install normal software, just with the repo, say you might have a few issues. Again, I don't know. I'm just guessing. On a distro like this, I would probably just use Snap or Flatpaks, depending on. Anyways, thanks for watching.